Welcome to Control, Shift, Lead, recorded in the Forward Ed Network studios, the education leadership podcast for those ready to take action. Hosted by Jim Wichman of Inspired Edification and Adam Busch of AWB Education and Media. Leadership isn't a title, it's action. Discover how to take control, drive meaningful change, and lead with purpose right where you are. Take command, drive the shift, lead the way. This is Control, Shift, Lead.
Welcome back to Control, Shift, Lead, everyone. So thankful that you're here. I'm Jim Wichman of Inspired Edification. We're with Adam Busch from AWB Education and Media Services. Adam, this is our last episode of season 2. Can you believe it?
It's crazy. I know. It just time absolutely flies by. But yeah, it's been a great season. This has been awesome.
You know, what makes this a great season is not only the feedback we've received from our listeners and so forth, but it's really being able to sit down with educators, listen to some of the things that they've really taken that as inspiration throughout their years or their positions they've had. And I got to tell you, what we have in store today is I'm very excited about.
Oh, I am too. And you're right. I mean, it's been awesome to hear from our listeners, and our viewership just kind of keeps growing little by little. And so it's
Nice.
great that people are getting that same benefit of a conversation for us. I mean, you and I have talked about this with the guests that we've had on this past season. If nobody had listened to the show, I would still been doing this because this has just been awesome. I've had so much great learning through the people that we've had on. It's just been crazy. It's been wonderful.
What I've liked, the common and consistent message from our guests that we've had on there is, that was really fun. And then it was usually followed up with, can I do it again? And I just think that says a lot about, well, just the people that we have on the show. It says a little bit about, the listeners who are, encouraging us to keep going and so forth.
Yeah.
Hey, listeners, we got a special treat for you today. Adam and I went back and listened to some of our older podcasts that had some higher activity with the listeners on there, and we thought we'd grab some of the segments along the way. Adam, I got to tell you, I mean, when we went back and you listened to more than I did, I got to say that, listeners, let's be honest. If you know Adam and you know Jim, Adam did a lot more of that work. So how did it go, Adam? How did you filter through some of the work there?
Well, I'll tell you what, the hardest thing, to be totally honest, Jim, the hardest thing was trimming some clips down and only having a few. Otherwise, we'd have, I mean, this has been a 4-hour podcast episode if we'd have just left all of the great stuff that we've had from some people. But I'll tell you, there's some amazing themes, and I think that's what we're going to get to tonight. And really the biggest piece is that there is, this isn't just a best of episode, right?
Yes.
I mean, and I get that. That's fine that some shows will do that, but that's not what our intent was. Our intent was the fact that there is this recurring theme that goes through a lot of the work of our listeners, and that is that, leadership, it just isn't built on one big moment, right? It's built on those moments that we choose throughout the day, every day, and we have so many of those opportunities. And I think that's a really big lesson for all of us in the school leadership field, is that there's going to be moments that are out there. It's just all of those cumulative things that really make you a great leader. And that's what all of our guests talk about.
One of the things I really kind of reflect on when you approached me and said, hey, Jim, you want to do a podcast? And we talked about what is it, what are we going to do? What's our theme? What's our purpose and so forth? And we kind of resonated with, we just want to help people. And then when you go back and listen to those clips, one of the theme that I grabbed more than anything else is perspective. And slowing down and not trying to be someone you're not, and not trying to do too much. And I think our first guest, as we revisit our first and former guest here, first clip from Bob Long is going to be something that's going to get us right into the moment. And I think it's a great way for us to start. Bob actually, he just officially retired from Muscatine Schools.
I probably just got done. Yeah.
He just retired. He was a special education teacher forever. He did everything in Muscatine as far as coaching. I probably would call him Mr. Muscatine, if you will. But Bob and I have known each other for darn near 50 plus years, and he always seems to amaze me. So what do you think we can jump right into? What do you say we jump into one of his the clips that we have for everybody?
Sounds good. Here is Bob Long, and this is his message about be where your feet are. So earlier, I think I caught you say You want to be where your feet are. Is that what I
Mhm.
heard you say?
I did say
Explain that to
that.
me. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think what I mean by that is where you're at, that's where you're meant to be. Okay. And
Okay.
so I tell my kids, I tell my athletes, I tell my students, I tell my responsibility kids, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Pretty simple rule.
Yeah.
And if I am where my feet are, my kids, my faculty, the people I work with, my community members, they know that I care. I'm trying not to think about other things. I'm trying not to think about the next time Jim and I are going to get together and be able to go out and have a guy's weekend
Hmm.
or something like that. I'm trying to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm supposed to be doing.
So I'm
I
taking
like
that.
that.
When I first heard "be where your feet are," I took that as just be present with people. But you kind of took that a few other layers down when I think the words were,
Yeah, you did.
it's where you're meant to be. So because we often get in the rush of got to be someplace else. I wish I were, but be where you're supposed to be. I mean, this is it. This is where you're meant to be. So it's just a little bit deeper than being mentally present. That's
And
Adam. He
and
might be rivaling. Go
it,
ahead, Bobby.
but it is difficult. I mean, I'm not perfect with it by no means, but I try to be cognizant of it.
Yeah.
Like how many times have you had a kid come up and talk to you, or a faculty member, or anybody in your building, and you want to get to that email, you want to move on to the next task on your list. Okay.
Yeah.
How many times have you had, let's just say, a list of 12 things you want to get done in a day, and then all of a sudden it's 20, and then here's little Jimmy, or here's somebody coming in. You need to be present for people. And that's also being part of being where your feet are.
Yeah. And the people are going to feel that too. They're going to know that this guy means business. He's here for me. And that's just, to me, what I hear you say that it's that you're saying that everybody that's here is important. I'm showing them that they're important. They're important enough for me to be present in that moment with them. I think that's very admirable.
Yeah.
What a great thing we can control. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I was talking to one of my, a lady that I teach ELA with. I go in, I co-teach in her classroom. We were talking about how, I can go to Hy-Vee, and the number of people that call me Mr. Long, and I kind of think to myself, it's like, gosh, I know they know me, but I've been in this place for so long, and it's like, I might be making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to what I was trying to say
So,
earlier is that is something that's a great example of something we can control. But I like how you sort of leaned into, you're not perfect at it. You're still practicing. This isn't a thing that you can just start tomorrow. It's practice. How do I be present? Recognizing when you're not present, celebrating where you're meant to be. And I think that this is when we talk about all the controls that we've talked about in all our episodes, this one's going to sit for a while, especially when you added this is where you're meant to be. So I really appreciated hearing that.
all right, Jim, I'll tell you, I remember talking with Bob that night and just, I mean, how he really talks about how that intentional, how we show up intentionally as leaders, how much that makes such a difference. And really the question becomes like, what kind of a place are we creating for everybody else out there? It's just such a great message.
Be where your feet are. That's what I keep
Yeah.
coming back to. And when you hear Bobby speak or you see his face when you're listening to him and so forth, he can get really excited. But when he was saying those messages, he was clearly 100% present with us. And like we said at the beginning, it's that perspective. It's like, how do we can help ourselves a little bit if we just slow down, just slow down. So
Be real.
Great message. Be real.
Yeah.
And that is exactly who Bobby is. He is real. He is real with that. Yeah. What a great start to the last episode of season 2 of having Bobby here.
That's so awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, hold on, everybody. We'll take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back with our second chapter of this reflect back on season 2, get to a couple more of our guests. So hold on. We'll be right back after this.
At J. Costas and Associates, we believe leadership is personal. It's built through relationships, trust, and intentional action.
We don't just train leaders, we walk alongside them. No one went into education to be average, but sometimes we simply lose our way. Through personalized coaching, keynotes, workshops, and instructional support, we help educators and organizations reignite their purpose, clarify what excellence looks like, and design systems that maximize impact. Because great leadership isn't about titles, it's about connection, growth, and building cultures where people feel respected, supported, and valued. At J. Casas and Associates, we inspire others to be more and do more than they ever thought possible.
All right, welcome back to Control Shift Lead. We're going to go into our next segment here, Jim. So this is where we really talk about how we can build a school people want to be part of. And some of our guests really had some great suggestions here, some advice here. And we're going to start right out of the gates with one from an episode that we did with Dr. Chad Lang, where he really gets into that idea of hospitality. So here's Dr. Chad Lang.
It's not an initiative. It doesn't require a webinar. This is a perfect time to, and also give an opportunity to do some small group work and some professional learning to talk as a team. Everybody that works in your organization knows what it feels like to go to a hospitable organization. You should talk about what that feeling's like. You should name those things because everybody can participate. I mean, when's the last time you had your secretaries jump right into a professional learning workshop? When's the last time you've had your custodians do that? And you're going to want to be mindful about how you set it up, and heterogeneous in the groupings and all that kind of stuff. And just say, we're really excited about making this place someplace that people want to be. And we want to bring in elements of hospitality. Weird. Well, let's just jump right to it. Let's name some places. What did it feel like? How did they do that? And the leadership's responsibility is to make the connections. Like I heard, synthesize that word. I heard that you guys love the idea that a hospitable place is welcoming. Whatever it might be, whatever these themes are that they come with, they just start getting audits, start doing a little bit of audit work with some small groups, some committees to say, what's the first place we might feel unwelcome here? Let's ask the students, let's ask the staff, let's make it anonymous. Doesn't matter. Data is data, right? So we got to own our data. Once we produce it, then we have to own it, good or bad. And I think that's a process you can do even without a PD day, right? Like you could figure out ways, maybe collaborative teams can do it. Talk to students. Maybe you start with students. And you can't always approach it from like a real leadership type style because it'll feel like really odd to just be talking about hospitality. Talk about it in more general terms. We want to make sure everybody feels valued here. And this is a place of learning. That's the other thing, is I almost always tie it back to learning. Not always facilities and all these flashy things in programs. I tie it back to learning. How do people know this is a place, a business for learning? Yeah. How do you feel that? I always used to love that my students would, this is so self-grandizing, but my students would always tell me, like, when I would ask for their feedback before Google Forms, like I would literally like make a survey and have them fill it out at the end of my government class. And when I would debrief with them from the data, it's like, hey, I want to lean more into this. And more often than not, I felt like we had great classes, but I felt like the students said, I could tell it meant a lot to you. I could tell it meant a lot to you. And the follow-up question is how? And I would love to I didn't know about the 5 whys back then. I would have just started digging in further, but it was great for them to say, well, you were always organized. You always cared if we weren't meeting proficiency at any level. You always felt like everybody could do it no matter what their last name was, things like that. And, I kind of hung my hat on that. And that was a little bit more about my personality probably at the time, but I think, geez, I could have scaled that to other teams. So I think, one way is that. The second thing is think about this, as I mentioned earlier, as a parallel structure. What's good for staff is good for students in terms of it's all the same. So if you're working and levering areas that are working with staff, think about how are we communicating that with students? There is not a single school I've ever worked with in grading and assessment that once they make the launch towards having more of their grade represent just the academic standards, that they have this big, ugly thing they have to deal with called, yeah, but how do we get them to do this stuff? Like, what about turning stuff in and deadlines and all that? Isn't that important? Yes, that's super important. That's absolutely incredibly important. But how could we utilize the framework that maybe has been successful in developing hospitality with anticipating what the barriers are about feeling welcome to teach the skills we expect and desire. And so you got to ask, you got to get feedback, so on and so forth. It does not equate to lowering the standards for people, this work. And I think that's important. As a leader, I talked about making sure people have a seat at the table so you can get feedback. Of course, that's true of students. Okay. And being very, very specific and clear about what it is that you desire, that we want people to feel when they're in our school.
It's amazing. Be mindful. What did it feel like? I mean, he's got a lot of great stuff there, Jim.
Be intentional. Name. Don't just assume people are on the same page. Name it.
Yeah.
What I love listening to about Dr. Chad Lang is when he looks at you, you can see the intensity and the intentionality of every single vocabulary term he uses.
Yeah.
And he sees the connection of how everything goes together. And I like how he called it out. If it's not natural, don't do it. But you can build it up so that it is natural. Like I think he used the word odd. I just thought that was really, it's true. If you want to get people involved, be intentional about how you're doing it, and building the school that you want people to come to means that you build it for everyone, not just teachers, not just students. It's every single human that's tied to that school.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the line he says there, how do we, let me try this again. He said, oh yeah, how do we know that this is a place for learning? Or how do people know that this is a place for learning? I think that's really, really incredible. I mean, it's a school. Great. All right. Yeah. But what actually happens at a school? This is a place for learning. How do people know that? I thought that was a great line. Really
and ties everything into that learning aspect. I mean, he talked about it's a place of learning because this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. Yeah. What a great clip. What a great guest. And I know we're going to have him back on.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
So next we've got now we're going to move on to Jim Dutro. Okay. Jim was a friend of yours. I think came on right about Christmas time or so, right before the holidays. We were talking with him about that culture and shared experiences and how you own that. So let's go ahead and jump right in here with Jim.
Same thing with our staff. We found our staff sometimes struggle with chronic absenteeism.
Yeah, no, it's a true story.
And so one of the things that we have done the last couple of years is, and I'm wearing my sweatshirt today, we have some swag giveaways every week, usually on days where we've got a lot of teachers out. And the one caveat to that is must be present to win.
Yeah, well, that was coming.
Must be present to win.
Yeah.
And so this sweatshirt, and Jim has one, Wichman has one.
I should have wore it today. Yes, yeah. It's a great sweatshirt.
Have to get one out to you, so we'll make sure we get one out to you. It is the most comfortable sweatshirt you've ever worn in your entire life. I don't know
what's unique.
Better. Yeah.
Oh, it's great, and our staff loves it. Like we call it the Wheel of Names. So usually it's on Fridays, but not always on Fridays. We spin the wheel, set number of names come up, but you have to be present to win. And our absenteeism for staff has gone down since we've started this. And so, perfect example, I was in Indianapolis a little bit ago for a conference, presenting at a conference, and I couldn't do the Wheel of Names on that Friday. And the amount of texts that I got was the Wheel of Names. I was like, we're going to do it on Monday, which everything's going to be fine. Sweatshirts are going out. But our staff has really gotten into it, and it's something that they look forward to. And so, that's something my goal is to have all of them out by winter break. And we started this at the beginning of the year. So that's something that we love to do. Just fun activities, giveaways for staff.
What a great way. Cause I know that, Gene Day used to be that kind of like a coupon for Gene Day or things like that. We kind of had to evolve a little bit. And I did something similar. I didn't have the coolest sweatshirts or anything like that, but I remember giving away like a dinner for two, and that got a lot of cheers.
Yeah.
So did everything else, like a pencil. I mean, I was giving away all these things, and they all got equal cheers. I think it's just shaking it up a little bit throughout the mundane part of it.
Well, and I think too, Wichman, you're talking about, it's giving away. That's good. People like swag. They like all that stuff. That's great. But it's also just think about the camaraderie that happens during the moment. That's really what people are getting to, right? It's that
Yeah.
it's kind of like when we, I was always talking about with coaching where you'd hide conditioning, right? I need people to condition, but they don't like to condition. If I hide it in other things and people, they just get into it. They have fun. Well, it's the same thing. Really, the goal you're trying to do is get that ownership piece with the school and wanting to be there and that desire to be there. You just got to hide it within some giveaways, which I think that's an awesome idea, by the way. But again, it's kind of, it might have a different purpose. And if we just say it, is that really, we need you here at school email? I don't know if it's going to do a whole lot, but having something we do as a team like that that's just going to have a bigger impact on it. I think that's a great idea.
What's the feedback you've been getting from that, Jimmy?
They love it. And I think you see more and more sweatshirts throughout the year as more and more people win them.
Yep.
And so again, there's that, you talk about that camaraderie of, we've got them, and they all know they're eventually going to get them. That's the other piece that I think is important. They know that they're going to get it at some point. And it's just kind of the bragging rights before, if you get it early versus later on in the year.
So I know some of the staff members now, when they win, are they like strutting around a little bit, or are they just, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would be.
They're even the entire staff. Woohoo! Got it.
Yep, I like that. So Adam, I think I might have picked up on one of your each week or each month I try to grab an Adamism along the way. And I never heard of hide conditioning or hide pride, or you're kind of like, you're being savvy with it, but it just kind of makes it more of a natural. So often, we do things like an icebreaker. Nobody likes icebreakers, but we do them. However, you can do the same thing, and if there's intention into it, no longer does it become an icebreaker. It becomes like something with purpose.
Yep.
And what I think about it is, when we do things to check it off and think it's going to change the world, we really miss everything. Yeah. So if the email you talked about, if Jim would have sent out an email to Lake Ridge staff, not only would it drown out we're not going to really, okay, whatever, but all emails from him outside of this time of the year, it would drown it out too, to have that. So now we're like making it a really purposeful. So it's not just about winning a sweatshirt, or not just about being present. It's like, we're a wolf pack. I mean, man, I gotta tell you, what's the phrase at the end you guys have with the wolf pack?
Hashtag pack mentality.
Pack mentality. That's it.
Yep.
That's what it is. Yep. I love that.
It is. You're getting people out of the classrooms. You're getting everybody out there together to celebrate the fact that we're together. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. That's awesome.
Pack mentality. I love that.
And speaking of getting staff out, another thing that we do usually that last week before break, we call it snowflake in your pocket. And so we we give 8 snowflakes throughout to 8 staff members each morning. And so they put it in their pocket. Every staff member can then say, do you have a snowflake in your pocket? If you do, you have to give it to whoever asked. This goes on all day until 2:50. And at 2:50, which is the end of our day, whoever has those 8 snowflakes in their pocket, again, get some type of prize. And so our staff, oftentimes your teachers, they hang out with their math people, they hang out with their language arts people, their science, their PE. They don't necessarily commingle throughout the building.
Yep.
You're giving them a reason to commingle.
Mm-hmm.
Super into it. They want to be there those days. Again, it's getting your staff present in the building. And a great story I have for this, and Jim will tell you, I'm probably one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. I want to win. I already have everything that we're going to win. I don't even care about getting anything new.
That's right.
I just want to win.
That's right.
And so I had a meeting one day during the snowflake in your pocket. I had gotten the snowflake right before the meeting. So I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going in my office. I'm putting the shape. Nobody's getting my snowflake. Staff member comes to my office, slides a piece of paper under the door.
I love it.
A snowflake in your pocket.
They were
That
on cue.
is
That's what that was.
perfect.
I have to give up my snowflake.
Underneath the door, or
I opened the door, handed her the
handed it to him?
snowflake, and I was very angry for the rest of the meeting.
That is
Do
hilarious.
you even know what
Well
the meeting was
played.
about, or were you just mad?
I was just mad. I was angry.
Who was I gotta tell you, next time that's I don't need to know the name, but that's brilliant.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
a
that was well
brilliant
played.
way. And I gotta tell you, that story that you just said right there probably got sung. I mean, people were probably talking about that for a while. And so when they're talking about something like that, they're not talking about that kid, that parent, that principal, that soup, that board member, that legislator, that governor, that. They're talking about a time when we laughed. They're talking
Yep.
about the time when I got the principal. They're
Yep.
talking about that time when we came together.
Unreal.
Jim has stories. That's one thing we can count on right there. Jim has stories. Jim he has the energy. He's the principal who went to school at that place. He
Mhm.
was assistant principal at the place. Then he's the principal. So he is Lake Ridge Middle School. That's for sure. I love that. And having that energy going into break. So that I remember that
Yeah.
episode clearly, where instead of having staff go on break to get their energy back, we
Mhm.
want them to go into break so they have energy for their families. And I think
Yeah.
those are subtle little things that just go a long way.
Yeah.
And and it, and nothing against the treats on the cart that go around. That's kind of cute and fun and everything. But what he's built is like something that's sustainable over a period of time and intentional. We want to
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
the staff attendance, and they're noticing.
Yeah, yeah, and you just said it, intentional, right? You're
Hmm.
creating those moments, and it does take a little bit of
Hmm.
time and effort and energy to put that together, but
Hmm.
the payout is worth every bit of that. I mean, that staff, you can, I've never been there, and I can tell it's a staff that really likes to come to work on those days and really just plows ahead and does the right stuff for kids. That's really cool. But you know what? You have to slow down to notice that stuff once in a while
Yeah,
too.
that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
you're right. That's exactly what it is. In the hallways, they're interacting with kids, they're interacting with each other,
Yep.
always willing to jump in. And he's got something special there. That's true.
Yeah.
Probably because he was intentional.
Yeah.
Great clip there.
So next, we got Dr. Rachel Edoeket. Okay, this was our
Yep.
last episode of just before this one right here. I know you were going to try to get a chance to run into her at Chicago at the
Hmm.
Culturized
Culturized
Institute
Institute.
there. Yeah,
I
did you get a
did.
chance to? Did you guys run into each other?
Actually, I was there when she walked in the door. She went on a little tour where she met a friend. And she went on a little tour of Chicago and came in, and she gave me everything the
Yeah,
scenes that she did and everything. She had a blast. She even got to
that's
go to
awesome.
a unique neighborhood. I did get to hear her speak. I didn't get to
Hmm.
hear her little workshop, but the keynote, I did hear
Hmm.
that. She had probably 400 or 500 people in there listening to her, had them
Not
laughing.
surprised. Yep.
Oh, she had it. She had it. And
Yeah.
really, what an amazing, like, she's just like talked about a bunch of little tweaks
Hmm.
to how you process
Hmm.
and the impact of all that. So
Yeah.
what a great guest that was.
Well, awesome. Let's get to that. She's talking about gratitude walks and, like you said, little things,
Hmm.
noticing those little everyday
Hmm.
moments. So here's Dr. Rachel Edoeket.
So when I need any morale pick me up, personally or
Oh, no
professionally,
kidding. No
I will
kidding.
just walk around the school, no agenda, and I'm listening for children laughing. I'm looking for amazing like teaching and discoveries that are happening in real time. I'm looking for parents eating lunch with their children, surprising them for the day and seeing their faces light up when they have like a McDonald's Happy Meal with their kids. I'm going outside. Smelling fresh air. I'm watching children play. All of those things happen in our schools every single day. But the
Yeah.
question is, are we taking the time to notice them? Or
Yeah.
are we only focusing on correcting what's wrong? And I think we need to shift our lens in this area because so many beautiful things happen in our schools every minute of the day. But if we're not noticing them, if we are
Yes.
not highlighting them, if we're not spotlighting them, it's as if they are not happening.
Yep.
I hear educators talk all the time about celebrating, but typically what we will celebrate is like oh, the third grade reading scores are now
Yes.
higher, or all of those, right? Or the
Yeah.
varsity football team just won a big game, and all that stuff's awesome. Don't get me wrong, that we should celebrate that stuff too.
Hmm.
But those little moments that you're talking about right
Hmm.
there, what lead up to all of those anyway, I just love that idea. I mean, sad, but I have notes for our show over here, but on the other side, I have the notes for the stuff Adam's gonna do to make sure that he gets done this coming fall. So this is
Yeah.
awesome. This is really working
Yeah.
well
This
for
is
me.
great.
And it's accessible for all schools. All of us all have all, no matter what school you're in,
Yeah.
rural,
Yeah.
urban, suburban, no matter what, you have these moments.
Mhm.
And again, the question is, are you taking the time to notice? Or are we buried in our emails? Are we buried in our notebooks? Are we looking up to see these things? Like,
Yeah.
let's lift up our head and let's see, what's happening around our building. And it's amazing. All of our
Love it.
buildings have amazing things happening in them every single day. And we need to talk about that more.
And how much does it cost?
Right, it's
Exactly.
free. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, when we talk about leadership is it's, letting others see, and you're doing things by example and all of that as well. You can't tell me if you're doing this all the time that your staff doesn't take their moments to recognize those little things too, more so than what other staff members might do. I mean, it's easy to get caught up. The job's hard. The
Mhm.
job's really hard, especially you start pulling off a gratitude walk in the middle of, I know, the third week of March or the first week of April when everybody's
Mhm.
just trying to tread water anyway.
Mhm.
That's really impressive. I really like that idea.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it, as someone who has struggled with, feeling like personally low at times, like you said,
Mhm.
December, um, all the concerts and all those things into January. That's a hard stretch for all the school leaders.
Yeah.
Even into May, there's a lot happening, but it also can feel overwhelming. Sometimes we need to take a step back and really look at what's happening in our schools, the beautiful things.
Well, that makes culture feel a lot less abstract, that's for
Mhm.
sure, and it's like Jim just said, it's free. This isn't adding another initiative. You're
Yep.
not going out to buy a new book that we all need to read. I mean, this is something very, very easy for us to be
Yeah.
able to do. It's just looking at the way we lead a little differently.
Every time I listen to Dr. Rachel Edoeket, I find something new. And I've heard this clip a couple times. I've seen
Yeah.
her in person. I've actually had conversations with her. And I love the great little reminder of it's the little things that matter.
Yep.
And whenever I hear her speak, I picture a balance like you had in science class.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
those little things can be put on the one side of the scale or the right side, or
I like that
some might
analogy.
see the dark side, or if you go
Yeah.
into Star Wars a little bit, but it's those little things. And the gratitude walk, which is a phrase and an example, and something I've encouraged many others
Mhm.
along the way. When I got to hear her speak in Chicago, she was talking about the little things, as I mentioned before.
Mhm.
And then when I couple it with her Zoom interview that she had with us in Control Shift Lead, it really is about these are little things that we do to shake the world as we go by.
Yeah.
And we keep spreading it. And I got to tell the listeners, if any of our guests, if it resonates with you, I highly encourage you to reach back out to them through
Mhm.
social media, email if you
Mhm.
have it, and so forth. They respond quickly to the comments because they have a couple different jobs. Everybody that we have on there has a couple different jobs, and
Mhm.
and one of them
Mhm.
though is that it's consistent. Is they want to make sure that we're supporting educators not just in their district, but throughout the country the best they
True
can.
story.
So I
Yep.
highly encourage you to reach out.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Our
Yep.
next our next guest guests, I should say, is our good friends, Dr. Jill Urich and Dr. Jeremy Braden, two of
Mhm.
our closest friends. And
Yep.
and when we put all four of us in together on the Zoom, it was like old times coming together, talking about pedagogy that we share. And what I really resonates mostly about this interview is our true dedication to the children as much as the adults that serve them.
Yeah.
There was some nostalgia there for me. I don't know. I can't speak for you,
Me
but
too.
yes.
Me too. That was a blast. And, I kind of, as we're thinking ahead to what the show can be or will be in the
Mhm,
future as we get into a
mhm,
new season, I think we learned something here during this one
mhm,
about getting together with a group of people and just talking shop, talking
mhm,
what we do for a living every day.
mhm.
And I thought it was just great. So yes, here is Dr. Jill Urich and Dr. Jeremy Brake.
So you said learning is on a continuum, not on the calendar. And I think that's over and over again when we have to get through the curriculum, or do we want our kids to learn the standards? Two different things. And when I hear you speak, Jeremy, it's about learning the standards, learning what the intention is, and that speaks loudly to us. And I also would say, so if we're going to be present, we're going to be out of our office. Why don't we celebrate the journey that that's happened over the last 8.5 months, or whatever the case is? I mean, my goodness, we always are looking at what more thing we can do better, one more thing we can do better. How about all the things that we've done really well? I mean, education, a lot of times it gets kicked around anyway. Why don't we stand up and start celebrating and start telling the narrative about what's happening in Ankeny, what's happening in central Nebraska? Because there is a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah, you're
And
right,
sometimes
Jim.
we just pass it away.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jim.
Yeah, I would
Sweet.
agree. I think that the celebration piece, I think oftentimes we are our own toughest critic, where we don't stop and celebrate. And then it feels like we're never accomplishing things because we continue to do things. And so without that time to celebrate, we cannot be filling up our own gas tank or feeling a bit empty as well.
Do you think part of that, Jeremy, is the fact that educators in general aren't very good at celebrating their own things? Feels like bragging. We don't want to do that part. We want to stay humble. We want to just do the right things for kids. But you're right. You don't see people do that very often, or when we do, it feels a little superficial.
Yeah, I think in education we're great at identifying at times deficits and trying to close the gap on those, rather than identifying strengths and accentuating those. And I think identifying what we have done well and celebrating that, while still being aware of that the job's not finished, to your point earlier, like we're never done with the learning. It's ongoing, and we're never able to put a stamp on that until graduation. But even then, we're on to the next thing. And so I think finding ways to celebrate the strengths and the accomplishments is especially critical at this point, knowing all the work that everybody's done in order to finish strong.
I think of Jill, I think of that time working with you. I don't know what you didn't celebrate. And I think, I mean, I just think of that energy that came across all the time. I mean, Adam, you were down the hallway from her.
Yep. But that is a unique trait of Dr. Jill Urich that not a lot of people can do. They can't pull that off. That's certainly something that you did on a daily basis.
You're very kind. I'm just thinking, I think the way I celebrate is by tapping into the leadership of everybody that's around me, if that makes sense. Like I celebrate by engaging them, because I don't have all the answers. And so it's inviting people in, right, to the conversations and celebrating them.
Yeah. When you are empowering them as you're doing that too.
Yeah, I think that's important, because it's not about me. It's about us and who we're serving, and maximizing the gifts of people.
Yeah.
Is the celebration.
And I know I cut myself off there, but I think that was the biggest piece. It's something we can control, right? I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen by accident. This is something that if we want, I hear you all the time, Jim, and I say this to other people, like we talk about, we want a culture. We're going to develop a culture. Well, you have a culture regardless, right? Depends on what kind of culture you want to have, and that it doesn't happen by accident. It really doesn't.
So we hear intentional, we hear about being focused, we hear about being present, and then we're hearing about we have to maximize the people around us.
Yeah.
And just when you think about all those components, that's when we really know that we've hit the mark, or as Chad says, we built the school of hospitality.
Yeah.
We get to say all that, and we get to control it. And how much money does any of this cost?
Nothing.
None. Nothing.
Nothing. Tell you, great leaders, they just continue to grow themselves. They're helping others grow, all of those things. I mean, it's, just your job's not finished, as Jeremy was saying there. We move on. We do. We go on to the next thing, but the memory is going to remain with people. And so that part is just really, really cool. Hey, we're going to take another quick break here, Jim. That was a nice long segment, because again, I think we could have, like when we talk about the whole concept of building a school that people want to be part of, I mean, hours, we could go into that.
Right.
But we're not going to. We're going to move on. So we're going to come back here in a little bit with a couple other great guests as we talk about that keeping growing, how we keep moving forward. So we're going to get to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after this.
This segment is sponsored by Grunmeyer Leader Services. Since 2013, GLS has been a trusted partner for school districts across the Midwest, specializing in executive recruitment and leadership support. They believe that great schools start with great leaders. and they are here to help you find the perfect fit for your district. Transform your school's future with the right leader. Visit GrunmeyerLeaderSearch.com to learn more. Grunmeyer Leader Services, transforming education one leader at a time.
All right, welcome back to Control Shift Lead. Jim, our next clip here is from Dr. Matt Townsley. Now, I know we talk about this during the episode, and I think his good friend, Dr. Chad Lang, if I remember right, we recorded with him maybe a month or two after we recorded with Matt.
Correct.
And he even talked about how much energy he probably still had 2 months later at that point in time. It just got a ton of energy. But I think that his message about being willing to kind of change your thinking and really think around that piece and how that growth starts with humility, I think that's really a big message here. And so I don't want to talk anymore. I'm not going to spoil what he's going to say. So let's get right in here to Dr. Matt Townsley.
Yeah, when I was a high school math teacher, I was always asking questions in the hallway of my colleagues, how many points do you make homework worth? How much do you take off for late work? And as it turns out, those were natural questions to ask. But as I started really to think more deeply about it, what I realized is they were the wrong questions to ask. Because I was asking all of these questions all about compliance and how do you use grades as carrots and sticks. And to make a long story short, when I went to a math teachers conference one year, State of Iowa Math Teachers Conference, shout out to the Iowa Council of Teachers of Mathematics there, I learned that maybe there's a different way of thinking about grades. And that really, honestly, I wasn't like, going to quit teaching or anything like that, but it really was a professional game changer for me to go there and to that conference and just to realize that maybe that one breakout session that, every administrator hopes that they send their teacher to just has a groundbreaking, like thought-provoking, going to come back and light the world on fire. That's what that was for me. And so I went from that teacher that just, taught based upon points, percentages, and tried to hold kids accountable based upon the grade book to really thinking more about grading being communication. And about feedback being for feedback's sake, not just for numbers' sake. We just got done talking about that in the previous segment, right? We want to go, it's not about point accumulation. It's not about compliance. We want our grades to communicate learning in relation to the state standards or whatever. And so like the practical deliverable of all that is to say, here's the purpose of grading in our school. The best leaders out there, they know the mission and vision of the school, and they're living it out. Words on the wall, if I can use a phrase. I know you know Jim Wichman, all right? Okay?
Well, Jimmy Costas there,
okay? So we got to have that same mindset when it comes to grading, all right? So here in Iowa, there's a convenience store called Casey's, all right? And so here's the deal. If Adam's wearing his, his school district's logo right here on his quarter zip as he's filling up his Toyota Corolla at the gas station, and somebody else on the other side of the pump is like, hey, I heard your school district is doing something different with grading. Adam, like any educator, ought to be able to just tell him from one side of the pump to the other, like, here's what we're doing and why. Yeah. And it starts with that grading purpose statement. So that leader has got to be thinking, I got to rally my staff around this collective agreement around what purpose are grades going to serve in our school. That's the very first step, all right? And we're going to do that with a team, and then we're eventually going to roll that out to our entire staff to get them involved, asking questions, all that fun stuff. There's all kinds of other stuff after that, like, we've got a grading purpose statement. Now we're going to have like a, grading policies in our school, like how are we going to handle those reassessment things we just talked about? How are we going to handle homework? All that important stuff. But first, what's the purpose of grades in our school? Step number one.
Matt's big thing, and he really talks a lot about this when it comes to standards reference grading. You're talking about an expert of the experts, right? And that's the biggest thing. I think that's what his message really is that the first place with all of the work that we do in education is start asking questions, start asking better questions, rethink the assumptions. Just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean it's what we should be doing now. And that's a big part of his message.
Yeah, I think that if you go back to a clip that talks about him going to a conference and a teachers conference and all of a sudden he started asking questions like you mentioned, why am I trying to push kids in or dangle points over them, teach them the game of school, if you will, when we can make this more meaningful and let them chase learning versus the points? I think I think a lot of people do ask that question. And I think when the work starts to get messy or we can't conceptualize it, we start fading back into our lowest level of training, which is most of the time what we experienced when we were in school in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
You
No, you're
know?
right. You're exactly right. And I get it. It is because the work's hard, right? And so you do what's comfortable and you get back to that piece. But I think that part of his mission of the right work might be the hard
Mhm.
work, but it's
Yeah.
still the right work. And we still got to get
It's
going
mhm.
towards it.
Yeah. Agree. Hey, we got one more video clip here that one more of this portion of the show anyway that we're talking about. And a good friend of mine, Kanika Dorsey, a principal out in the Virginia area. She has a great way of talking about how we need to. How I think she says that we have to glow before we grow. And I think that when you really get to know Kanika and her journey, you, as a single parent going to school, being a principal in the East Coast, she's just an amazing human. And then when you get a chance to listen to her speak, there's so many nuggets all the time. So, hey, let's just jump right into it. Listen to Kanika.
So you mentioned earlier about my background in instructional coaching, and that was one of the key positions that I had. It allowed me to work with staff to give them feedback, and it was non-evaluative. And I found that the non-evaluative feedback will help staff grow and build a capacity because I was not allowed to give feedback because I wasn't an administrator. So I took that, and when I became an administrator, I wanted to use that same model, providing teachers feedback. You mentioned that I'm a New Yorker. So I remember when I was first learning how to drive, I had different drivers teach me. And I remember driving with my hand on the back of the seat, learning how to back up, not looking in the rearview mirror. I remember driving too fast, not following the speed limit. I also remember not putting my hands on 10 and 2, but no one had given me that feedback until I got to the end. And the person that was teaching me how to drive said, I think you need to go take a driving lesson. And I thought, what for? Like, you already taught me how to drive. Then I took a driving lesson and I needed 5 of them. And in that moment, I was given immediate feedback. Put your hands on 10 and 2. Don't blast the music and put your hand behind the seat and look behind you when you're backing up. Make sure you do the correct 3-point turn. And every time I did a driving course, it was feedback immediately. While I use that same model as an administrator, like, teachers need that feedback immediately to grow. Sometimes when you don't give that feedback to them or it's evaluative, things are done in the moment. So my team, I make sure that they give the non-evaluative feedback. In the first month of school, I say visit 2 classrooms, give them a glow and a grow, tell them something that they need to work on. And then we make sure that it's not written up. We're not sending any emails. We're not communicating through our CLTs. It's personal for that teacher. And then you go back and you visit again because that same grow that you gave them, you want them to make some improvements. You want teachers to know exactly what they're looking for, what you're looking for before you go in and do that observation. So it is so important that you make sure you control that. Also, you'll create an opportunity where there's trust, and then teachers are doing something amazing, and then they see you in the hallway and say, "Stop by first period. I'm doing something. I want you to check it out." Or I'll get emails, and students will say, "Can you come by and see this project that we've created?" And then you see that you've created this relationship with teachers, and you're able to control those things because you want teachers to grow and build capacity. That's the point of the feedback: is building that capacity so they can increase student achievement, increase instructional outcomes. And with that piece of you controlling it, it also gives some teachers some autonomy to say, hey, I'm doing something that's great. They know it's not evaluative. I'm walking in, I don't have a computer, I don't have a laptop. I'm really walking in with my 2 phones and my radio and a sticky note and a pen. And when I leave, I'm dropping the sticky note on the table. And they love the immediate feedback. So that is a piece of an administrator that you have to control. It's definitely important that teachers know that you're there to support them. And the minute we say is non-evaluative, they open the door for us wide. The students greet you when you walk in. They're ready for you to come in. You know exactly what they're doing. And then if there's something that you want them to do to improve, you make sure that you give them that opportunity. So before you get to that evaluation, they know everything you're looking for. You might say, I want you to do some checks for understanding, or I want you to pull a small group because somebody didn't get it. I need to make sure you have the learning target so the students know exactly what it is that they need to know. Your warm up might be 10 minutes. Okay, I need you to bring that down to 5 and 7 minutes. All right, your I do might be too long. You're doing 20, 30 minutes. How can you do a mini lesson? So when you give them that feedback before you get to that first evaluation, they know everything that you're looking for. So there are no hidden agendas. There's nothing that's going to catch them. Although you know that there's some areas that they need to work on, they know exactly what it is that you're looking for.
Well, Jim, I'll tell you right there. I mean, we're talking about coaching. That's her biggest piece right there. It's not evaluating. Yes, we have evaluation. That's part of the work. And it's an important part of the work. but really the work we're trying to do is that coaching piece. And you can tell she's obviously an excellent coach. And that's a big piece of why her staff is going to keep growing.
Yeah, I also think one of her traits is being clear. She speaks very clearly about what she expects, so that people usually have a chance instead of like doing that guessing game that we sometimes do. And I really do believe that she is one that wants to focus on the growth versus the gotcha. And I never really understood the gotcha mentality from leaders or anybody really. And it just, when you talk about the evaluation system you mentioned, obviously it's part of our role and everything. It is as ineffective as we want it to be, and it's also as effective as we want it to be.
Absolutely.
And we, just like everything else in this show today, we get to make the decision. And how empowering is that when we think that everybody else has control? We have control of more than we think.
Yep.
Yeah, with that. And I think Kanika does a great job of just kind of reminding us that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Well, Jim, let's do one more quick commercial break, then we'll come back. Let's talk a little bit about this. We'll wrap this up. And then I think we've got one more little clip I'm going to leave us with. That's going to be a perfect wrap up to season 2 here on Control Shift Lead. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back. All right, Jim, it has been an awesome season 2. An awesome season 2, especially when I think back to way back in the day when you and I were first just kind of getting into this, and we didn't really even, I mean, let's be honest, we didn't know what we were doing. We were trying.
Right.
Just
we had a
guys who knew each other.
With a good common cause. We want to be a part of the solution. And that's really what kind of drove us to these conversations. And we started to get momentum. We started hearing from people. We started people asking us to be on the show. I mean, all that kind of comes together. And it says that, just like you had mentioned earlier with Jill and Jeremy, and that really was, sometimes it's just important to get people to talk in the same space, to talk about how we're handling, how we're addressing things. And when our listeners, maybe they're going to grab a couple things here and there. And that's what it's really about. I also like that the fact that we're always available when people reach out. Our guests are available. You and I are available. AWB Education and Media and Inspired Edification. We're going to be there to help people, and that's what the cause is within that. Adam, I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. I got to give you props to your producing skill set. I mean, it's not easy cleaning up some of the jargon I did, and I'm glad that you're not going to release any of the behind the scenes videos as well.
Yeah, someday down the road, maybe we'll do one of those.
That makes me a little nervous within that. Hey, listeners, I got to tell you that this has been a great time for us. We're wrapping up season 2. Season 3 is coming with a little bit of tweaks. We're still going to have the Control Shift Lead mentality, but we're going to do it with a different kind of panel set with some different types of questions. And most of those come from the viewers, listeners of the show. With that, I just want to remind you that no matter what, under any circumstance, you're never alone in this job, and don't allow yourself to be. You've got Adam, you've got Jim, you've got our guests, you've got people. Use them.
Yeah. We
thought it'd be very fitting to end this show, or season, if you will, with one more little video clip from my best friend, Bob Long. Bob is, as I mentioned earlier in the show, he's retired after 33 years. And he's got one more last message for us as he rides off into the sunset. So, Adam, let's play that clip.
Love it. Thanks, Jim. Great season 2. Everybody, here's Bob Long.
During my career, I've been a teacher of special education and a longtime coach. I've also, last couple of years, I've been the junior high athletic director, and I wouldn't change that for anything. I think that when I look back at my career, the biggest piece of advice I can give to somebody is, you got to find your passion. And I think I found my passion.
Thanks for hanging out with us today on Control Shift Lead. If you enjoyed the show, there's plenty more to discover in the show notes, including ways to connect with Jim and Adam, or even launch your own educational podcast. While you're there, take a look at the other amazing shows on the Forward Ed Network. They're doing incredible work sharing the stories of educators everywhere. We'll see you next month. Now, go out and control, shift, and lead your school.